gunfire echoing through Port-au-Prince after the president was assassinated. Then, just 36 hours after a group of more than 24 Colombians and 2 Haitian Americans allegedly killed the president, most would either be detained or declared dead.
On the 7th of July 2021, the president of Haiti, Jovenel Moïse, was assassinated. Gunmen broke into his home and machine-gunned Moïse in his bedroom, killing him and critically injuring his wife. Usually, when a sitting head of state is murdered, it's an act of terrorism or war. But evidence has emerged that may show Moïse was killed because he was launching an investigation into high-profile Haitian drug traffickers with political connections. This is how drug cartels may have killed the president of Haiti. Immediately after the shooting, a vicious fight broke out between police and the assassins on the streets of Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince. Eventually, Haitian police arrested 18 Colombian mercenaries, along with 2 Haitian Americans. Another 3 Colombians were killed, and 5 are still thought to be at large.
What does it say about a country when the president, in his own home, is killed?
We're doing our best, but it's not easy for us. This is not the army. That kind of battle that having place here is, I think it's something that might be controlled by an army.
At the time, many people assumed this was simply a political assassination. However, it then emerged that Moïse was compiling a list of Haitian drug traffickers, and he was reportedly about to turn the list over to US authorities. The Colombian mercenaries have apparently admitted that retrieving this list was a top priority. And Moïse's widow Martine, the only surviving witness of the assassination, has since gone public in interviews seemingly backing this up.
Face down and bleeding, she thinks about a dozen men ransacked the room looking for something specific. They came to find something because I heard them saying, "That's not it, there it is," which means they found what they were looking for.
Even more confusing in all this is that some of the alleged drug traffickers on Moïse's list were the very people who put him in power in the first place, the people who really run Haiti. Moïse's predecessor as president was Michel Martelly, a popular singer who used his celebrity status to win the presidency in 2011. It was Martelly who handpicked Moïse to be his successor.
Under the Constitution, Haitian presidents are not allowed to run for consecutive terms. They can run again, they just have to step down for 5 years. Moïse was going to be the bench warmer, essentially.
This all seemed to be broadly going to plan until early 2021, when rumors of an alleged coup made Moïse dramatically change policy.
There's at least 1, possibly 3 airstrips there. In the May to June period, several thousand kilos of cocaine actually landed in that airstrip. They'd never seen anything like it before. These airplanes were coming in from Colombia and Venezuela, and they thought that Moïse was in on it. Moïse was livid, starts calling everybody up, and starts to try to close down this airstrip.
The problem was that some of these drug trafficking operations were allegedly run by powerful people very close to Martelly. This is Charles Kiko Saint-Remy. He's a Haitian businessman with interests in everything from hotels to eel fishing. He's openly admitted to trafficking drugs in the past, but insists his current businesses are legitimate. However, across international law enforcement, the assumption is that Kiko is still a major player in Haitian drug trafficking, and is reported to have been one of the key names on Jovenel Moïse's list. He also happens to be the brother-in-law of the former president, Michel Martelly.
Drug dealers, people who are involved in the drug business, are ruthless killers. They don't play around. So a lot of people become very afraid of Kiko Saint-Remy. And they couldn't challenge him because, after all, his brother-in-law was the president.
What's perhaps most suspicious about the assassination in July is that Moïse's own security team didn't fire a single shot. They stood down and let the assassins through.
Why do you think that guard tower was unmanned?
It was like a routine. So sometimes they have people, so sometimes they don't. So.
Just luck of the draw that night? Seems a little strange, no?
Well, I don't know.
This is Dimitri Herard, who was head of President Moïse's security detail.
Dimitri Herard is one of the chief police officers who runs the presidential palace security. Moïse never trusted him. Moïse would constantly say, like, these people are traitors, I don't want to talk to them. And these are the people who are in charge of the president's security, right? Forces stood aside, assassination unfolded, and Dimitri basically didn't lift a finger to save the president.
He used to work for President Martelly, and has been reported to have been spying on Moïse directly for Kiko. But Harad, the head of the president's security team, also happens to be a major suspect in one of the biggest drug trafficking cases in Haitian history. He was reported to have used police vehicles to transport vast quantities of cocaine and heroin, in a case also involving Kiko. Harad has now been detained by authorities, with Colombian police reporting that he visited the country several times in the past year, leading to suspicions that he recruited the mercenary squads. But the case gets even murkier. It's since turned out that at least one of the Haitian-American suspects detained after the assassination was a former DEA informant. And video has emerged showing that the gunman actually gained access to his home by claiming to be DEA themselves.
At least two of the main suspects in the assassination were former DEA informants. Drug dealers flipped by the DEA to become informants. And these are people who killed Haiti's president. The war on drugs has basically led US foreign policy for several decades now. And the DEA feels no need to answer any questions. Drug
corruption is so endemic in Haiti that it's even spread to the DEA mission there itself. Whistleblowers have alleged that millions of dollars have been misappropriated, and that DEA operatives were even giving tip-offs to Haitian traffickers, including Kiko. In 2021, the US Office of Special Counsel issued a formal reprimand to the agency because of the situation in Haiti.
They are certainly not going to give up their lives at the battlements for some cause. There is no cause for them. Their cause has always been greed and violence.
High-level drug corruption is nothing new in Haiti. The country sits almost exactly halfway between South America and Florida. And its poverty, unstable politics, and lack of rule of law make it an ideal hub for narco-trafficking. The trade exploded in the 1980s with the American cocaine boom, and the Haitian elite got involved almost immediately. The most recent estimates indicate that 8% of cocaine that enters the US will come through Haiti or the Dominican Republic, which share one island.
Since the 1990s, the drug business in Haiti has become the #1 business. Many politicians who got elected in parliament, who became ministers, are involved somehow with the drug trade.
As so often with the war on drugs, this is a complex case. And we can't pretend that Jovenel Moïse himself was some kind of super clean anti-corruption warrior against the drug cartels. In fact, Moïse was widely accused of maintaining control through links with violent Haitian street gangs, in particular the G9 and its leader Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier. Cherizier is a former cop who quit the force to become a kind of street godfather, unifying 9 of Haiti's biggest criminal gangs under his control as the G9. It's also alleged that he was strongly allied with the Moïse government, receiving weapons and protection from the police in return for attacking areas that voted against the government.
Do you see G9 and yourself as a legitimate authority here in Haiti?
Nous connaissons que nous sommes force politique, nous sommes structure sociopolitique, sont structure sociopolitique cap goumé pour moun ki pi mal yo pour nous comment nous capable.
A social political movement that carries around pretty large weapons.
But for all of Cherizier's posturing as a defender of the poor, he's accused of carrying out brutal massacres, often on behalf of the Moïse regime.
Pile balle, na lem pour me retourner venir prendre quand on vient prendre tout rentrer là ou prendre. Donc pour me lem gain balle.
Who do you blame for your son's death?
Barbecue avec ne caché du feu.
Do you think President Moise is in any way connected to the surge in violence here?
Oui, monsieur son ancien policier lié. Mbadou se rapproché président lié, sécurité président lié, il y a un bâtiment national mondial. Il y a plein de sponsors, il y a une boîte là. Les gars là, la petite peuple là. Pas pile, pas paquet. Et Jovenel lui-même, moi, tout ça n'est pas fait. Il ne va jamais dire non, il ne va jamais mettre au statut, il ne va jamais mettre la carte sur lui. Je le fais, nous qu'à faire ça tout.
First, he talks about anti-corruption, but he was very corrupt. He was involved in money laundering. He was using state resources to build his own private wealth. And he tried to dispossess the ruling elite by transferring their assets for his own good.
The murder of President Moïse has still not been solved, and it may never well be. In the aftermath of the assassination, several different factions claimed power, creating a violent political vacuum. And Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier, leader of the G9 gang, launched an all-out street war to consolidate his own hold over his territory.
En pile moun qui dans la police, en pile moun qui dans pouvoir, en pile moun qui dans opposition, c'est yo qui fait complot avec bourgeois senti pour yo livrer président. N'a répété ça encore. Peuple a pour dans la rue et n'a pratiqué ça qui relève légitime violence. Et n'a répété encore nous c'est grand timoun, yo tiré sur nous.
Meanwhile, for all the corruption that the war on drugs has caused in Haiti, including the possible murder of a president, the cocaine will continue to flow and make the people who may have killed him wealthy beyond the dreams of any ordinary Haitian.
C'est moun ka viv dans la rue, c'est pas bête. Si l'État pas ka fait travailler nous-mêmes, n'a veille zone nous, n'a fait travail zone pas nous.
We'd like to congratulate drugs for winning the war on drugs.